Hello and a very warm welcome. My name's David Roth from WPP, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to Follow the Sun, 24 hours of broadcasting right across the world to celebrate the launch of the WPP BAV Best Country Study for 2021, done in conjunction with US News and the Wharton Business School. It's a pleasure to have you join us for this section. Of course, this broadcast is going to be right across the world. We're starting in Australia and New Zealand, and we'll be ending at the end of the 24-hour period in the USA. Well, we've got an absolutely packed broadcast today, and I'd like to start off by introducing Mike Sussman from BAV. Mike has been the brainchild behind the Best Country Studies for many years, and there's nobody better to put the Best Country Study into context. Over to you, Mike.
Thank you, David. We're really excited about the launch of the 2021 Best Countries study. It's the most comprehensive study of the power of nation brands. We've been doing this for 6 years, covering countries that represent 95% of the global GDP and about 75% of the world's population. So an amazing coverage. This year, we're looking at 78 countries. We spoke to over 17,000 business decision makers, citizens, and elites around the world. And we've ranked countries on a battery of metrics, including 26 key rankings that we'll talk about throughout this report and throughout the app. One thing we've seen over time is the shifting impact of soft power. It's becoming more and more important to driving the power of a country, while hard power, like banks and tanks, as we call it, the more traditional power, is becoming less impactful on the success of a nation. When we think about the power of a nation, we think about 10 key dimensions, and you can look at each of these ranks and how a country does on these things, from entrepreneurship to cultural influence to quality of life. We've introduced 2 new ones that are becoming more and more important today in these changing dynamics of culture. One of those is how socially purposeful is a nation. And the second is how agile is a nation, how responsive it is to things, particularly during a COVID era. And both of those dimensions are extremely important in driving the GDP and the success of a nation. Agile nations are seen as 3 times more likely to be a better job market. They're rated 3.2 times more likely as being economically influential. They are more connected to the rest of the world. So agile nations are doing something to resonate with people globally. Really important to mention, and it's the biggest driver now of GDP. And that's something that the nations need to be more and more of today. So when you think about agility, the top nations around the world this year are USA, number 1 in terms of being an agile country, followed by Australia, and in 3rd place is Canada. We continue to see the rising power of purpose, not just for brands, but also for nations. In fact, purposeful nations are 57% more likely to be considered for tourism, 55% more likely to be considered as a place to do business. So it's important to be seen as a purposeful and socially responsible country. Number 1 on this purposeful dimension is Canada, followed by Denmark, and in 3rd place is New Zealand out of 78. So pretty impressive, pretty strong dimensions, very important. We also see the power and impact of brands that resonate from countries. In fact, 79.5% of citizens say that consumer brands play an important role in defining a country's culture. So there's a strong relationship between the brands and the nation. We also see that 78.6% of citizens say that the country a product is made in impacts their preference for a brand. So you can see that interplay between brand and country and how important it is today. And we started measuring the power of what does it mean to be made in a specific country. What does made in America mean, and made in China? And we can rank the power of these nations in terms of their exports. So, for instance, Germany ranks number 1 in terms of the country you'd want to buy an automobile from. They also dominate on pharmaceuticals and beer. So you can see a little bit of a balanced power of that nation. Italy is number 1 on fashion. So that's the top brand for when you're thinking about buying fashion brands. France owns cosmetics. In terms of the best countries for real estate, Canada ranks number 1, followed by the United States and then France. So overall, again, you can see how the building blocks of a nation affect its overall ranking. And we're excited to share some more details with you. Back to you, David.
Well, now it's time to get an overview of the key insights from the 2021 study on a global perspective. And who better to do that for us than Professor David Ribstein from Wharton University. Professor Ribstein has been our partner in this study since it started, and his unique understanding and unique perspective of countries, of brands, and what's driving GDP growth is unrivaled. So let's hear from David now.
Hello, I'm Dave Ribstein. I'm a marketing professor at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. I've been involved with the Best Country Study since its inception. This year has been a different year. It's been a transformational year. There's been many things that have affected how we view countries and how we live our particular lives. First and foremost, obviously, we've had to deal with the COVID-19 and the tragic loss of millions of lives all around the world. Accompanying this has been the huge impact on economies of various different countries, leading to an overall global recession. Some countries have handled the pandemic well, such as South Korea and Taiwan and several others, whereas other countries have not handled it nearly as well. Accompanying this pandemic has been the subsequent vaccine distribution. And this has required acquisition of vaccines as well as some form of equitable distribution of those. Perhaps Israel has been the country that has done the best at it. There are others that are catching up, but there are other countries that are still struggling today with trying to manage the vaccine distribution. A third major thing that's been happening this year has been the Black Lives movement that originated in the United States and has found it in various other countries all around the world. Climate impact has been a major event that's happened in various different countries. Perhaps most notable are the brush fires that happened in Australia. We've seen other events, such as the explosions that happened in the Beirut port, killing millions of lives. And of course, we could not ignore Brexit and the impact that's had on the British economy, as well as the economies of Europe. Many, many events have made this year an exceptional year. And it's part of what it is that we've all had to adjust to. Perhaps the greatest impact, of course, has been the pandemic. And what we have witnessed as individuals is we see that how we buy and where we shop, that's changed. How we work, many of us working from home, some of us not having jobs. So there's been a dramatic impact for individuals, where we eat and how we interact with family and friends, dramatically affected, and we've had to adapt. Businesses have had to adapt as well. And what they have had to do is how they connect with their customers has changed. Meetings have changed. The ability to have trade shows dramatically affected. The whole supply chain has been disrupted. And certain industries, such as the hospitality industries or the airline industry, have been dramatically affected, with sporting events being canceled throughout the world. So many, many industries have suffered as a result. And when I've talked to business leaders, almost inevitably, what it is that they tell me is they've needed to be agile. And it sort of is the buzzword that I hear from companies. But that's not restricted to just individuals and companies. Countries have had to adapt as well. And what it is that we have seen is we see, obviously, trying to get the healthcare systems up to speed and handling with this medical crisis that we've got. And getting medical supplies to the hospitals and to individuals has also been an issue. But trying to cope with the unemployment levels and trying to deal with that and supporting the local governments has been a major issue for countries all around the world. And what countries have had to do they've had to adapt as well. Well, we too at the Best Country Study have had to go through our own adaptations. We've added 13 new attributes that we use for evaluating countries, and we have taken one of the previous dimensions, that of citizenship, and we have morphed it into a dimension that we call social purpose. And what is social purpose? It has many of the dimensions that we had in citizenship, but it also includes dimensions such as human rights and racial equality and social justice and climate concern, that have all been attributes that now feed into the social purpose dimension. And we've added a new dimension. And this new dimension, this new overall factor is one of course, agility. And what is it that we have feeding into agility? Our perceptions of countries in terms of their adaptability and in terms of responsiveness and how progressive they are and how modern they happen to be and how dynamic they are, all feed into this agility dimension. So with that said, let's take a look at the latest rankings that we have.
China is powering the Asian century in 2021. According to Best Countries rankings, China is becoming the second most powerful country in the world and will boost Asia's leading power in the world economy. The Chinese economy continued its recovery in the first quarter of 2021 as GDP growth accelerated to the fastest rate on record. In the 3 months ending March, China's GDP grew by 18.3% year-over-year, up from 6.5% in the final 3 months of 2020. As China is becoming an economic power engine on a global stage, China's efforts to stabilize the economy are already well on the way through the building of Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), the Free Trade Zones (FTZs) around APEC, as well as signing Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement (RCEP). First, I will introduce the success of Asian Trade Road. The Silk Road was not a permanent link between the East and West, and yet existed for over 1,000 years. Scholars of the Han Dynasty have recorded the beginning of the Silk Road and the alliance negotiated with the northern nomadic tribes for reasons of security. It was the beginning of the establishment of a market in Central and Western Asia. Known for trades of silk and spices, it was a significant economic corridor for almost 1.5 millennium, connecting major regions of the world. Those routes extended more than 4,000 miles to Europe. Central Asia was thus the epicenter of one of the first waves of globalization, connecting Eastern and Western markets, spurring immense wealth and intermixing cultural and religious traditions. Since then, China greatly promoted the large-scale circulation of commodities, the dissemination of science and technology, and took the lead in realizing trades between the East and the West. Now let's move to modern China development. China has followed the trend of economic globalization, continuously expanding its opening up and actively cooperating with countries around the world. The total import and export volume ranked among the top in the world. For more than 30 years, China has attracted foreign investment, introduced advanced technology, transformed and upgraded domestic industries. In 2001, China joined the World Trade Organization to accelerate the integration of Chinese economy into the global economy. According to the data from China's Customs Administration, in 1978, China's total import and export volume was only $20.6 billion, ranking 32nd in global trade, while in 2010, China's total imports and exports of goods reached almost $30,000 billion, growing 143 times over 1978 with an average annual growth rate of 70%. In 2010, the total export value was $1,577 billion, and the total import value was $1,396 billion, accounting for 10% and 9% of global export and import volume. Vigorously developing foreign trade has become an important way for China to speed up modernization and improve the country's overall power. China's Belt and Road Initiative (BRI), which sometimes described as the 21st Century Silk Road, with a belt of overland corridors and a maritime road of shipping lanes, is one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects ever conceived. In 2013, Chinese President Xi Jinping resurrected the idea to reopen trade corridors between China and its neighbors in the West and notably Central Asia, the Middle East and Europe, and put forth the idea of the New Silk Road, also called the Belt and Road Initiative. Xi's vision included creating a vast network of railways, energy pipelines, highways, and streamlined border crossings, both westward and southward, through the former Soviet republics to Pakistan, India, and the rest of Southeast Asia. Such a network would expand the international use of Chinese currency. In addition to physical infrastructure, China plans to build 50 special economic zones, modeled after the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone launched in 1980s. She announced the plan for the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road at the 2013 Summit of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations in Indonesia. To accommodate expanding maritime trade traffic, China would invest in port development along the Indian Ocean, from Southeast Asia all the way to East Africa and parts of Europe. In total, China has already spent an estimated $200 billion on such efforts. Morgan Stanley has predicted China's overall expenses over the life of the Belt and Road Initiative could reach $1.3 trillion by 2027. As of January 2021, the numbers of countries that have joined the BRI by signing a memorandum of understanding with China is 140. The BRI is in the process of promoting economic globalization and human civilization to a higher level.
Along with the construction of BRI, China continues the expansion of pilot free trade zones as well. Since August 2013, 21 pilot foreign trade zones have been built in 6 batches in China. In the first 7 months of 2020, more than 3,300 new foreign-funded enterprises entered 18 pilot foreign trade zones, with a total land area of less than 0.4% of the country. These saw 90 billion yuan in utilized foreign capital and 2.7 trillion yuan in imports and exports. Moreover, the Trade Agreement Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership (RCEP) was first proposed in 2012 as a way to create one of the world's largest FTZs. It was signed virtually in Hanoi after 8 years of negotiations on November the 15th, which is a landmark deal. Once ratified by its 50 members, it will form the world's largest trade bloc. RCEP will cover 30% of the global trade, representing a similar percentage of global output. And it is also China's first multilateral trade deal and the first trade agreement between China, Japan, and South Korea. And now let's move to the trends, the achievements, and challenges of Chinese brands go global. Chinese firms were encouraged to take advantage of booming world trade. As an ideological as well economic initiative, going global strategy frames China's desire for global cooperation, as illustrated by the biggest development push in history, the BRI. Besides, the cross-border e-commerce platform is one of the infrastructures of the digital BRI, bearing the major responsibility of making trade more convenient. According to China's General Administration of Customs, the imports and exports of Chinese cross-border e-commerce in the first quarter of 2021 totaled over $60 billion, with a year-on-year increase of 46.5%. The export cross-border e-commerce totaled over $40 billion, with an increase of 69.3%. The General Administration of Customs works with relevant ministries and commissions to continually innovate and optimize the regulatory system and support the healthy and orderly development of cross-border e-commerce and other new formats. Since the late 90s, Chinese brands have achieved greater visibility as demonstrated in an annual Brandsy Top Chinese Brand Builder report released by WPP and Kantar, which expanded their scope from featuring 30 brands in their 2017 report to 50 brands in 2018. This reflects the growing value of Chinese brands, as local companies have responded to the clarion call of President Xi to conquer foreign markets. The Chinese government has demonstrated its commitment to become a high-tech, high-productivity economy by supporting local businesses with subsidies and policy planning that makes it easier for companies to do business globally. Initiatives like lowering trade barriers for a selected number of countries, especially along the Belt and Road roads, enable Chinese technology brands like Huawei access to the markets like South Korea, India, and UAE. VML One Commerce not only helps international brands to land in China, but also boosts Chinese brands to go global, such as TCL, Media, and Huawei. In 2017, Huawei surpasses Apple's global smartphone sales for the first time. And in the first half of 2019, TCL global TV sales volume hit an all-time high of 15.53 million units. This gives a market share of 14.3%, making TCL the number 2 brand in the global TV market. As China's digital involvement is different from other countries, success in overseas markets requires a deep understanding of the major global digital platforms like Facebook, Google, and Twitter, as well as local market characteristics. VYC China deeply understands Chinese market as well as the global networks, which can help enterprises bridge the gaps between different countries. Meanwhile, VYC China could maximize the brand equality, even during the pandemic and the social key events, and also maximize the value of international IP in Chinese markets and achieve multiple goals for companies. That is the reason why TCL, Media, and Huawei chose VYC China to help them go global. In 2020, VYC won the Christmas campaign, 2021 annual campaign plan, and store design for their smartphone product launch for North America and Europe. Our task was to drive smartphone sales even while the expected drop in retail spending due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In our Christmas campaign, we created an emotional campaign to encourage consumers and lift up their spirit despite a tough 2020. Launching onto our key selling point of our display, we encourage consumers to display their acts of love during Christmas.
2020 was meant to be a breakthrough year for TCL. To go global with one voice and one brand. However, with the surge of the pandemic, less consumers at retail outlets, and shrinking budgets globally, how could TCL perform their first test run in the market during the worst year in the most competitive season to still win the hearts and wallets of consumers? We focused on love. Because only love has the power to bring people closer during the festivities, trigger emotion, and spread generosity. With this emotional strategy, the idea Display Your Love was born, to encourage consumers to engage with the brand and show their love. The campaign was exactly what customers needed during the pandemic.
How is your 2020 going? Life stopped for a bit there, didn't it? We were far apart, masks became a must, screens stood between us. Kudos to us for making it this far. Because when the world needed love the most, the world got it. It's love that opens up our hearts, overcomes distance, and connects our souls. It's love that tears down barriers. It's love that lights up our hopes, and through our screens, keeps us together. In this season of love, display your love to the ones you love and the ones who love you with TCL. Intelligent technology for home and family to enrich your life and display to the world. So let's celebrate together and fill that celebration with love. Discover TCL this Black Friday. Technology to display your love.
But we didn't stop there. We went even further to fill the season with love. Using our own TCL products, we created the world's first TCL Display Your Love Christmas tree. The tree enabled us to display our extensive range of TCL products and enhance the brand's image while displaying our powerful product features and cutting-edge technology. More than this, it connected us to customers online and offline like never before, as it enabled them to display their love to each other. It became more than just a symbol of festivities, but a symbol of love, peace, joy, and hope. The tree also helped to spread cheer as it connected customers to amazing online deals and in-store offers. It helped us reach many to spread our message of love across social media with user-generated content for all to discover. Filled with love, our campaign was exactly what the world needed, and what we needed to expand our presence in Mexico, US, and UK markets. We reached our year-end sales target and won our first battle in this very tough year. But more importantly, the campaign helped everyone display their love to spread hope, joy, and cheer throughout the festivities. TCL, technology to display your love.
In the same year, VYC was selected as agency on record to launch media's new flagship Aircon into global markets for 2021. Unlike conventional aircon position, who take a science-driven and technological approach, media took the opposite approach to redefine the ultimate benefits of cooling in a more human and natural way. This project is ongoing and will utilize VYC's global network to launch in each market.
Can you remember the best cooling experience you ever had? A refreshing gust of wind on a mountaintop. Cool, crisp morning air at a waterfall. A gentle afternoon breeze in a green field. Yes, the best cooling experience comes from Mother Nature. And from Mother Nature, we were inspired. For she brings freshness. Her Oxygen Fresh system draws in air from the outside and filters it to remove 99.95% of dust and particles, while increasing oxygen and reducing carbon dioxide to give you a fresh gust of wind. For she knows how to self-cleanse. Her AquaPure system uses self-collected condensation water to deep wash filters every 9 minutes. With a 360-degree medical-grade antibacterial brush to give you crisp morning air all day long. For she is gentle. Her breezeless system softens harsh wind to cool you with fresh air you can barely feel, to give you a gentle afternoon breeze. Introducing Midea Nature Fresh. Inspired by nature. Designed with her age-old wisdom. A machine built in her image to be the ultimate air conditioner that every household deserves. Midea Nature Fresh, the air conditioner inspired by nature.
A record high of 17 Chinese companies have made it into the 2020 Brazil Top 100 Most Available Global Brands ranking, compared with 15 in 2019, according to Brazil, a global brand equality platform. China is now the world's largest e-commerce market, and the economical, influential, and strong exports are powering the world. The size and usefulness of Chinese markets are enabling the business models to commercialize and grow at speed and scale. Meanwhile, the development of China's new technology has been shared with foreign markets, enabling their expansion. The Chinese government has demonstrated its commitment to becoming a high-tech, high-productivity economy by supporting local business with subsidies, policy planning, and constructions like Belt Road initiatives and free trade zones that makes it easier for companies to do business globally.
Well, thank you all very much indeed. To celebrate this very special launch, we've created a very special app. It's a virtual reality experience where you can literally visit every single country that's featured in the 2021 study. Well, you can get it on your desktop, your laptop, your tablet, your mobile phone. All you need to do is just download it from the URL that's on the screen here. Enjoy, explore. It's full of interest and insights, and we'll be refreshing the content frequently over the course of the next few months. So please do go back frequently. Earlier, I talked about the significance of countries being seen as brands. This is being increasingly realised right across the world, not just by business leaders, but by governments at the most senior of levels. I caught up with the Prime Minister of the Netherlands and asked him how important he believes country brands are.
Mr. Prime Minister, what contribution do you think that retailing makes to the economy and society in general?
So many. I mean, it is the biggest employer in the Netherlands. 900,000 people are somehow connected to the retail sector, so it is huge in its economic impact. That means that many people, in many cases young people, start their working life experiences in the retail sector. It is also a place where you can learn how to be more entrepreneurial and how to start your own business. It is a sector in our economy which is very much focused on innovation and disruptive innovation. It is very much connected to the modern economy, to the internet, to online shopping. So there are so many positives. And it's also a place where people come together. It's also a sort of community place. In some of the stores, people drink a cup of coffee, meet friends, and then buy some stuff. So it has many, many impacts on society.
Mr. Prime Minister, you had a fantastic career at Unilever. You obviously know brands very well. Do you think country brands are as important as product brands?
Oh, they're crucial. And what I found in this job is that the brand of Amsterdam, the brand of the Netherlands, the brand of Eindhoven, or the whole commercial area around cities like Zwolle and Amersfoort are crucial for our international standing. And the fact that you can bike to school as a child, that it's relatively safe here, that there are so many possibilities when you like sports or culture. And I really learned to brand that much more than we did already.
One last question, Mr. Prime Minister. What advice would you give retailers today who are under a lot of pressure, under a lot of stress? Everything's changing very fast.
Yeah, but still, at the same time, you are in a fascinating sector. So enjoy what you are doing. We live only once. This is the real thing. This is not the. So you have to make the best of it. And there are so many opportunities for good salespeople, for good businessmen and women, to make use of all those opportunities which are out there. And do realize that you play a very important part in societies. You are really part of society.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow, I can't believe it. We've come to the end of our broadcast. We're almost out of time. I'd like to thank everybody who participated in today's broadcast. And just to remind you again, please do download the app and enjoy going virtually into every single one of our countries in this year's 2021 Best Countries Study. So from me, David Roth, thank you very much indeed. And Mike, thank you very much indeed as well.
My pleasure. And feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you.
Well, have a great rest of the day. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We really appreciate it.